The world has always loved kings. Power, armies, crowns, the ability to command. These are the things most societies have worshipped, feared, or followed. In the time of Jesus, no idea captured the Jewish imagination more than the coming of the Messiah, a figure who would overthrow foreign rule, restore Israel's glory, and sit upon the throne like David of old. To them, the Messiah was a conqueror, a political liberator, a warrior king. But then came Jesus. He had the charisma, he had the wisdom, he had the crowds. He had everything a revolutionary leader would need to become king. And he rejected it all. According to the Urantia book, this wasn't just an impulse. It was a core decision of his mission, a deliberate refusal to build a kingdom of men because he came to reveal a kingdom of the soul. To understand why Jesus' rejection of political power was so radical, we must understand the world he lived in. Israel at the time was under Roman occupation. The people suffered under heavy taxation, humiliating restrictions, and the constant presence of Roman soldiers. Messianic expectation ran hot. Every village whispered of a coming leader who would throw off the chains of Rome, restore national pride, and re-establish the glory of Israel. Zealots roamed the countryside, waiting for the right spark to ignite a revolution. And when Jesus began to speak, to inspire thousands, many thought they had found that spark. But what they didn't know was that Jesus had already decided, long before stepping into the spotlight, that political power was not part of his destiny. The Gospels briefly describe the temptation in the wilderness, but the Urantia book provides a deeper, cosmic backdrop. This wasn't a theatrical showdown with a devil in red horns. It was a period of profound personal decision-making, the moment where Jesus determined the nature of his entire mission. One of the key temptations presented to him through the rebellious system of rulers was the offer of worldly domination. He could have claimed political power. He could have ruled nations, commanded armies, worn a crown of gold instead of thorns. And he said no. He chose not to use divine power for conquest, control, or even self-protection. He rejected the very idea of leading a revolution because he came not to rule bodies, but to liberate souls. This moment in the wilderness was not weakness. It was sovereignty of a different kind. Jesus knew that political power comes with compromise, with coercion, violence, and corruption. To seize a throne would mean becoming what the world wanted him to be, not what the Father had sent him to be. A political Messiah could have changed a nation, but a spiritual revealer could change the world. The Urantia text explains that Jesus understood the fragility of kingdoms built on force. Empires rise and fall, but what he came to establish was not of this world. A kingdom within, invisible, yet indestructible. This was not the kind of Messiah Israel expected. And it is exactly why many turned away from him when they realized he would not lead them against Rome. As Jesus' fame grew, so did the expectations of the people. They saw his power to heal, his authority over nature, and the multitudes that followed him. To them, this was exactly what they had been hoping for: a leader strong enough to crush Rome, a Messiah not of sermons and parables, but of swords and banners. After the miraculous feeding of 5,000, the crowd's excitement exploded. The Urantia book explains that in that moment, a political movement ignited spontaneously. People began to whisper and shout, "Make him king." The idea swept through them like fire on dry grass. But Jesus saw through their intention. He knew they didn't want the kingdom he spoke of. They wanted the kingdom they could control. Rather than ride the raid of public fervor, which any aspiring leader would have done, Jesus quietly withdrew to the hills, alone. He refused the crown before it was even placed on his head. Even those closest to him struggled with his choice. His apostles, like the rest of their people, had grown up with stories of the Messiah who would overthrow Rome. They were men of their time. Many hoped, even expected, to be part of a new government under Jesus, a heavenly kingdom with earthly power. Peter dreamed of loyalty rewarded. Judas Iscariot dreamed of wealth and influence. Even John and James imagined thrones at his side. So when Jesus refused these opportunities, the apostles were deeply confused. Some were disappointed, some were quietly frustrated. Judas, in particular, began to lose faith in Jesus' vision. He didn't understand why anyone with such power would choose not to use it. But Jesus had already made his choice in the wilderness, and he would not bend to human ambition, not even the ambition of those who loved him. Throughout his ministry, zealot groups hovered around his work, hoping to pull him into their cause. They interpreted his miracles and sermons as signs that the time had come to rise against Rome. They waited for the moment when he would finally give the order, when swords would be drawn and rebellion would begin. But that moment never came. Jesus consistently sidestepped their traps, avoided political entanglements, and spoke of a kingdom not of this world. His refusal baffled revolutionaries. How could a man with such power not fight? But that was the entire point. The kingdom of heaven was not about force. It was about transformation from within. By rejecting political power, Jesus also sealed his fate. Had he embraced the revolutionary path, the crowds would have fought for him. The temple elite might have feared him, but they would have had to negotiate with a king. But a teacher who refused power? That was far easier to silence. To Rome, he was just another religious agitator. To the priests, a blasphemer who threatened their control. And to the crowds, eventually, he became a disappointment, not the Messiah they imagined. But he did not come to meet their expectations. He came to reveal something higher, When questioned by Pilate, a Roman governor expecting to deal with yet another rebel, Jesus uttered one of his most profound statements: "My kingdom is not of this world." To Pilate, that was disarming. To the zealots, it was disappointing. To the priests, it was threatening in a way they couldn't quite grasp. The Urantia book clarifies this even further. Jesus never intended to found a political state. His mission was to reveal a kingdom that lives in the hearts of individuals, not in the laws of nations. Political power can be taken, lost, or corrupted, but the spiritual kingdom, the one built on personal transformation, can neither be conquered nor contained. He knew that once the sword was drawn, it will one day be drawn again. Empires rise, then fall, but a kingdom of spirit, that can live forever. Jesus had the rare ability to lead without controlling. He could inspire without commanding. He saw clearly that political rule depends on external power, laws, armies, punishments. But his mission was rooted in internal transformation, leading people into a direct relationship with the Father. Urantia explains that had he chosen the path of political messiahship, he could have assembled armies in weeks. Rome, for all its might, would have feared a spiritual figure commanding such devotion. But Jesus believed that rule by force only breeds more force. True leadership, to him, was measured not by how many obeyed, but by how many awakened. His kingdom was never about borders. It was about souls. This is what made him such a paradox to the world. They expected him to ascend a throne. Instead, he washed feet. They wanted a warrior. He gave them a teacher. They expected a lion. He came as a lamb. But in that paradox lay his power. By refusing to seize political control, Jesus opened the door to something far greater, a universal faith not bound by one country, one language, or one government. Had he ruled as King of Israel, his message might have died with the fall of a nation. By rejecting the throne, he ensured it could belong to everyone. This decision echoes into the modern world. Even now, religion and politics intertwine, often dangerously. Many still dream of kingdoms built on ideology or force, of winning the world for God through power rather than love. But Jesus set the precedent long ago. His kingdom does not need thrones. It doesn't rise and fall with elections, wars, or empires. It grows quietly, one soul at a time. His refusal of political power was not weakness. It was a cosmic strategy, the ultimate act of spiritual sovereignty. Jesus could have ruled a nation. He could have worn a crown of gold. But he chose instead the path of service, truth, and inner transformation. And in rejecting that earthly crown, he became something far greater than a king. He became the revealer of a kingdom that will never pass away. This is why history remembers emperors as footnotes, and Jesus as the light that still burns.